they're trying to balance a squad that is nowhere near up to full fitness. It's a major balance. Now you get Arthur Johnson coming back potentially. He won't be able to play 90 minutes. So I mean, it's a bit of a patchwork kind of squad now. I mean, one of those guys I mentioned there, James Forrest, he did make another impact from the bench. Again, a bit like Iheanacho, is a big kind of clamour, right? Okay, James is the man. Great assist.
No.
And Sunday, he's got to start. He's got to start. What do we think?
No, I think James Forrest is playing his role perfectly at the minute. He's 34-year-old. He's coming off the bench. Again, he's making the impact. He's using his experience. And I asked Martin O'Neill about his future yesterday, and he said that he thinks that he would love to keep him for another year at least. And to be honest, I wouldn't disagree with that. I get it that maybe fans might think that it's time to move him on, bleed kind of fresh youth players into the squad.
Would you give Forrest another year?
100%. I mean, I think I've always been arguably James Forrest's biggest fan. I think he's been criminally underrated throughout his entire Celtic career. I think it's only the last few years that he's actually getting the credit that he's always deserved. I think he's been an outstanding servant for Celtic, obviously the most decorated player in Celtic's history. And I think fans won't appreciate what they had with James Forrest until he's gone. You remember, I think it was Brendan Rodgers' first season back. He really burst into life in that final few months of the campaign and basically dragged Celtic over the line to win the title. I'm not saying he's going to be capable of kind of reaching those heights in the final 5 games this year, but he can make an impact. You know, he can change a game. He can he's an old school winger. And to be honest, when I look at James Forrest, by the way, I don't think he's lost that much pace. You know, he had a pace. I still think he's got that burst of energy in him to get past defenders and whip across in, and that's what we saw yesterday with the assist for Kelechi Iheanacho, and that's what he's capable of. You know, if you're a fullback and you're in it's 70 minutes to go and Celtic are chasing the game, and you see that James Forrest is coming on, you're not going to be pretty chuffed. You know, it's probably one of the last players you'd want in Scotland coming up against you, given his experience and know-how. So, I think James Forrest is playing his role perfectly. I'm not sure that he would have the same impact if he was starting. I think he's better coming on for the last 20-30 minutes, and I think that's where he's best to make an impact. I mean, he's done it time and time again. I think he did it against Aberdeen when he set up Benjamin Nygren's goal. He had a hand in the goal at Ibrox as well. I think it was which led to the penalty, the 2-2 game. So
yeah,
but these are examples of what he can do. And for me, by the way, I need to throw this in because that's the point I was making yesterday to someone. Brendan Rodgers said a couple of years ago that he's the best winger at the club. I still think he is. I really do. It's just that he is getting older, and there are players ahead of him naturally who are able to last the 90. But I think James Forrest is the perfect impact sub for me at the minute.
I take the point. I think James Forrest is undervalued, and it won't be until he's long gone that it'll be proper. His proper status will be kind of realised. But I think you have to be kind of cold analytical about it. I mean, he has played 36 games this season, 36 appearances this season, mostly from the bench. It's got to be said. But he's got 1 goal and 2 assists and an assist for a penalty. So in terms of raw data, that's not enough for a Celtic winger. It's just not enough. And unfortunately for James, time is just catching up. He's 35 in the summer. I think last season he had 1 goal and 2 assists all season. With a lot of injuries last season. The previous year was good. He had 7 goals and 2 assists. 5 and 2 year before, and 4 and 5. So the numbers have been pretty diminishing season on season. He's never been first choice. Hasn't been first choice since since Rodgers' first season, probably. First time. Even then, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. I just think I mean, there's a sentimental aspect of it. You would keep him on board as an experienced pro, probably, but in terms of where Celtic ambition lie, I don't think you can be relying on James Forrest at 35, come up for 36 to make impacts in games. If they are, they've got a major problem. So, I mean, I don't see James going elsewhere, which is a shame. I would like to see James Forrest playing for somebody else for a season and lighting it up on a weekly basis. I think he still could. I think if James Forrest, I think there'll be plenty of offers. Always has been. Now, the last time his contract was up, there was plenty of offers from Premier League teams. Even, or I'd like to see him. I would love to see him doing a season, and maybe a season in the top end of the Championship, and seeing how he gets on. But I just think for Celtic, if they end up with James Forrest again having to make an impact next season, it's yet another failure in the transfer market. They need to be recruiting stronger, right? And listen, it pays me to say, because James is one of the best guys in the business, and I think he's an absolute gem of a boy. I just think that if Celtic have to get to that stage next season, something's gone wrong. Let's be honest. I mean, at 35, a 35-year-old winger is. I mean, any winger at 35, you think, right? Come on, especially the way Celtic. It doesn't help them this year, the way Celtic have played this year, because they haven't had a kind of attacking right back either. The right backs they've had this year, I mean, Tony Ralston I thought was great at it on Sunday. Thought that was actually, I think Tony Ralston brings more as an attacking right back than Rojo did. And I know Rojo's won a lot of fans over him because he's in with the punters and all that stuff, and he scored a goal, and he loves a tackle. But in terms of what he contributed to an attacking sense, it was minimal. Whereas Arthur Johnson does provide that attacking side, and it takes a bit off the wingers. Whereas Celtic now are relying on their wingers to attack all the time, and it's a hard shift. And at 35, 36, I think no, you've got to be realistic.
In no way am I comparing James Forrest to Ryan Giggs. Let me just say that. But Ryan Giggs, what age did he last till? Yeah, I look at Jesus Navas from Sevilla as well. I think he just retired last year and he was like 39. So I'm not saying James Forrest is the future for the club. You know, he might not even make the squad most match days, but to have a guy like that around who can make the difference, and I tell you what, just to have a guy like that around the dressing room when Celtic are going to go a generational rebuild as well. You know, James, I
totally get that. But
there's a lot of players that are going to be leaving Parkhead this summer, and to be honest, James Forrest, he wouldn't be nowhere near the top of the list. He'd be a lot further down. I think he's the least of the problems. I think if you can get a guy like James Forrest and tie him down for another year, I still think he can make a contribution. I mean, how many times you watch James Forrest and he gives away the ball? It's very rarely. You can't count it in one hand.
I take that point, but he's only scored 2 goals in 2 years, and it's not enough for a winger at Celtic.
The stats, men will look at that, but if you actually look at it when he's on the pitch and what he produces, I think it shows you why Martin O'Neill was still relying on him, but why Brendan Rodgers loved him as a player, said he was the best winger at the club when he was 33. Neil Lennon, he also brought him through. Ange Postecoglou used him, so he has still got quality, and I just feel as if I wouldn't be rushing him out the door. I think he's worthy of another year's contract.
No, I just think a Scottish Cup final and Martin O'Neill waves off in the sunset, and then Jamesy could do as well. I think it's not a bad way to sign off if they win the cup.